Hey guys, Ryan Haley here with Ticor Title Talk.
Ticor. Just in case you didn't know where we worked, guys.
I got stuck.
Just in case.
I couldn't shift gears. I was stuck in brain here.
Short circuiting. This is how you know this is real life, guys. Real life here.
What are we going to talk about today on Ticor Title Talk? It's Friday. We're having a fun Friday. It's a great Friday frequency, but we're talking about regret.
I know, and unfortunately, you know, I feel a lot of people in life do live with regret, and they have moments where I don't think when you're on your deathbed, you're going to be thinking about how much money is in your bank account, how much do you have here, all your like materialistic things. It's more about how much time you spent with your family, how much of an impact you made. Like, I know I talk to like a lot of people, and one of my biggest goals in life is like, when I die, I want that church so freaking full that like it has a line around the block because of making such a big impact in life. And I think that's a huge thing, is like, we don't talk about it enough. Like, what is our biggest debt in life? And we heard Tom Ferry talk about it, and he's like, regret. That's going to be your biggest debt.
Absolutely, and I think it's something that holds us back from living and getting the most out of this one go-round we get in life, is not taking enough risks, the calculated risks, and evaluating the cost of regret, right? Like, there's so many things that are limiting beliefs, or feeling of security, or trying to get certainty, when really there's very little that we can be certain about, and there's very little in our control. So, but we tend to abide by these internal narratives or these social norms that keep us in a cage, kind of, right? So I really like what you were talking about on the podcast, what it was, regret minimization framework.
Yeah,
right?
So only nerds would really call it that, like people like us and people like Jeff Bezos, because this is where this came from. And he talks about having a regret minimization of framework. And the story came from when he was working. He had a great job working on Wall Street. I don't know if anybody knows the story. I just recently learned the story of him. Great job working on Wall Street. And he was like having this issue of finding confidence to talk to his boss about like, hey, I'm quitting to start an online bookstore. And so he got the confidence to have the conversation with him. And his boss was like, that sounds like a great idea if you didn't have a great job. Like, yeah, that sounds great. And
but you have this awesome thing going.
Amazing job. You're smart. You know how to do this. And so he was like, the boss told Jeff, I'm going to give you 48 hours to really think about this decision. And during this time, I'm unfamiliar with the way Wall Street works, but I guess you get like a huge bonus at the end of the year. And that's like half of your earnings of your salary for that entire year. And so he
was going to give that up?
So he was going to give that, well, he did actually give it up, and I think it was a great choice for him of where Amazon took him.
He seems to be doing okay.
He seems to be doing just fine, but his big thing was when he was really having this like internal battle of like, do I quit? Do I start this? Like, is this the right choice? He went into this framework of regret minimization framework, and he said that I would have regretted it more if I never took the chance versus if I would have taken the chance and failed. And I was like, stick with that. And he was saying like, yeah, that yearly salary bonus that he was going to get was going to be huge. But he was like, I would regret if I never took the chance of going and starting an online book company and seeing where that went. If it would have failed, he would have been okay with it.
He could have landed on his feet, but look what it became, right? He would have regretted that big time. And I mean, obviously, like, better to have loved than lost than to never have loved at all comes to mind. Good to great comes to mind. Jim Collins, like, the good can be the enemy of great, because if you look around and shit's all right, you know, like, you're making it.
Yeah.
But that can preclude you or be your ceiling to greatness. I also think about the elephant, right? The elephant that has a little like rope that's tied to this little stake in the ground, and you're talking about what, a 4-ton animal that could easily pull that sucker out. But since he was a baby, he's been trained because at one point that rope was tied to a tree or a really strong post, and then he figured out he can take calculated risks and reach our full potential. And I think that's what the story is about.
Yeah, well, when I think about like going in business terms and stuff, like, people are so afraid. I mean, we get it too. Like, they don't want to make the phone call, or they don't want to have that hard conversation, or they try to do everything to avoid what could be. And like, yeah, having hard conversations are hard, but what's going to be on the other side of that? Making those phone calls can be hard, and it's not fun, but what could be on the other side of that? I think of one of our clients just recently. He was talking about the power of one more, and he had a day where he sat there for 3 hours and made calls and didn't get shit out of any of his calls. And he was like, you know what? I'm just going to make one more call. He made one more call and got a $2 million listing appointment off that call because he was like, you know what? F it, one more call. What's that gonna do?
I've been here for 3 hours, one more.
Yeah, one more. And so that's another thing where we think about like the power of one more, like one more conversation with your family, one more, those kinds of things will really outweigh when, not to get like morbid, but like when you're on your deathbed, like those are that's what really matters, is how you lived your life. And like, I feel some of us and a lot of us live in this little confined bubble because we're so afraid of like stepping outside of that.
Absolutely. And we all have our flavor of not good enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether you were told at 5 or 7 or 11, you weren't tall enough, you're not rich enough, you're not good looking enough, you're not smart enough. I heard a lot of this in my life, and so it's like you put that t-shirt on, right? Like Rob talks about. And at 5, I put a t-shirt on, I was like, I was the chubby kid, or I wasn't a smart enough kid. But I'm 48 years old.
We can change the shirt.
That shirt doesn't fit anymore. It's ridiculous to be running around with this 5-year-old size shirt on that I'm not good enough, but I was, and I have been, and it still comes back, but I know now that I can take the freaking shirt off, and I am good enough, and I can break through those limiting beliefs and that limiting narrative that goes on in my head, and I can change the story.
Yeah.
Right? And so as it pertains to the regret minimization framework, is what he's saying is play the tape out, right?
Yeah.
Like, if the upside is so much greater than the potential downside, what if I'm sitting there to meet new agents, which I'm scared to do, and talk to and engage with a new agent I haven't talked to before and I don't have familiarity with? That's scary. But the upside is a new client, a new friend, to learn something from somebody we haven't worked with before. There's so much upside. I've got to be able to push through that uncomfortability of not doing that.
Well, and I think we all have crossroads in our life, right? Like we all go through challenges, whether it's family challenges, relationship challenges, buying a home, all these different challenges. And we're faced with these crossroads. Crossroads are they're fun. But when we get to these, like, it's a really good idea to play it out. Like, okay, what would happen if I, in 80 years, took this step? How would I feel? Or if I took this step, how would I feel? And it's putting yourself out into the future, and we don't want to future fuck ourselves and get into that, like, oh God, this is really scary. But sometimes those scariest moments are the moments that you push through, and then you look back on it and you're like, I was afraid of that. Why was I so scared of that?
Right? I know. And just the testament that we're sitting here today is a testament to the fact that we've survived 100% of our bad days, and we've pushed through some hard shit, you guys. Like, we've been through pandemics, we've been through up markets, down markets, but on the personal side, we've been through all kinds of challenges. Nobody gets out without scars, right? In this life. So think about what you've overcome, and when this insurmountable obstacle seems to be in the pathway, like you're better than that. Dig a little deeper. What is the upside of overcoming it? Don't get on the other side and have that pain of regret, because there's the pain of discipline, which is painful. Right? It hurts to work out, but then there's the pain of regret, which it's really, really hurts to be in pre-diabetic condition or as it pertains to working out. But that goes to the physical, the spiritual, the family, all of that. And I agree with you, on your deathbed, it's the quality of relationships. It's the quality of time spent, and so that resonated with me when you shared with me about the regret.
When I think life is full of adversity, right? Like we're always there's always going to be the next challenge. Like we're either coming into a challenge, coming out of a challenge, or right in the middle of a challenge. Like there's always going to be adversity in life. And I think the biggest thing is, how do you step up to that adversity? How do you really handle those adversity challenges, and knowing that this is just a temporary challenge. This is a temporary thing, and this too shall pass. And I was telling Ryan, I was listening to the story about Terry Crews. I was on a good one recently. Listening to the story about Terry Crews, and I've always known him as just a hilarious actor, somebody just super funny, doing the little peck dance, and just had tons of comical stories behind him. But I had no idea he played for the Philadelphia Eagles for a short stint, and he had to come to terms with himself of I did not actually apply myself 100% while I was playing football. I did not put my full intent into it, because he was there was nights I stayed up late, I ate the cake, I did all the things I knew I shouldn't be doing, but I still did it. And he was I didn't put myself 100% in that. And he actually came out to LA because he wanted to be an artist, and he wanted to be an illustrator with Pixar and doing all these things. And he was working as a janitor in one of the lowest times of his life. He was like, I was in tears almost every day because of depression. And his wife came to him when they had like zero money after already going through the NFL. And he was like, I tasted all of that. Like, he had the cars, the money, and then it
big time success.
Yeah, like not big time success, but he was like, I was in that world. Like, we saw it, we had it, and we moved out to LA to follow my dream, and it didn't work. And his wife was looking at him of like, are we gonna have to go back to Michigan, Flint, Michigan? And he said, I will never let that happen. We are never moving back to Flint, Michigan. That will never happen. And he told himself when he was a janitor sweeping floors, he had this realization of like, you know what if somebody paid me $1 million to sweep this floor? And he was like, I freaking swept the shit out of those floors afterwards. Then he became a security guard for movie sets at like Paramount and Universal. And he was like, you know, if someone was giving me $1 million, how would I take care of these parking lots? He said, I ironed my outfit every day. I showed up on time every day. And he was like, I hustled that. And he was like, one of his darkest times is he brought his entire portfolio to Disney, and they're like, oh, well, you know, Pixar's coming out with Toy Story, and that's like all animation, like done digitally. And he was like crushed because he's like, that's what I've always wanted to do. Like, and we are all aware of changes of technology and things that happen. And he got a very small acting gig right after that because I can't remember what happened, but something happened where they were like, you know what?
You cut a break.
You could do this. And he got a very small acting gig, and now look at him. That guy has been like, I think like the sexiest man for people like 3 times in a row. He writes children books. He's an actor.
I mean,
like,
the only person out there more than him is like Snoop, because Snoop's the Olympic ambassador somehow.
And so you just think of those adversities and how you push through it, and like our adversities are so small and so minimal to some of those things that you hear, and it's like, fuck, man, if they did that, like. And I'm sitting here complaining about making calls to agents that don't work with me. Like, I should be thinking of like having $10 in my account and sweeping floors as a janitor. Like, that's some adversity. That is some hard shit to go through. And he pushed through that, and now he's like a freaking star in Hollywood.
These stories are all so compelling, you know, like addiction, depression, poverty, and people breaking through. And it's like, you got to remember what a badass you are. All of us. We pushed through some hard, dark shit, and we got to relish those moments of strength and bring them into this moment. Not allow the fear of the brain, which detects a threat and wants to run from pain and seek pleasure, but say, no, I've been through this, this, and this. I got this. This ain't shit compared to that, right? And don't forget what a badass you are. And then remember, like, just like him, he could have thrown in the towel and missed that little break for that little acting opportunity that launched this huge career. You're 3 feet from goal, and you put down the pickaxe and walk out, right? That too often is the case. But if we could just hang in there, and to me, it comes down to tactics. Okay, so how do I apply this to my life? Well, I've identified some things that work in our business, and we continue to go back to those things, and we scale this up because we're good at it, and we get rid of this because we're not, or it's not working, et cetera, et cetera. Find that in what your work is and what your process is, and find the things that work, and still showing up to do those things that move the needle, and then fall in love with the process. I was listening to Gary Vee, I was on a good one too, and he says, listen, I will be in the streets, sleeping on the sidewalk before I give up on this endeavor, man. And that's the kind of commitment he had. That's why he has what he has. And so we have to bring that into our everyday and just do the process. Fall in love with the process. The results are going to come if you do the work, right?
Well, I think you nailed it with saying like 3 feet from gold. I feel like so many of us give up when we're right there, when we're right on the precipice of moving forward and like hitting that next goal. But we go through those challenges and we're like, well, this isn't going to work. Like, I've done this so many times and I've showed up every single day and it's still not working for me. And then we quit when we're like right there from hitting it. And so I think that goes for all of us. Like, we've all had experiences. I can think of my experiences when I quit and I was like right there, and I was like looking back, but we can't have regret on that. You know, we have to move forward.
We went to this, and here we are, and I've got bigger opportunities now.
Exactly.
And I think one thing to consider tactically is confirmation bias. If you go out into the day looking for the win and expecting the win, you're going to find the win a lot of times. if you go expecting the rejection, the failure, the negative result, you're going to find that too. I mean, because your brain will find a pathway to confirm your hypothesis in your mind. Okay, it wants to prove itself right. So say, I'm going to freaking find a win today. Guess what? You're going to see the little motions and the frequencies that you otherwise wouldn't have seen to find the pathway to the W. But if the other part is true, man, and most of us set out with a negative scarcity mindset. So what do we find? Negative scarce shit, right?
Yeah.
So just be aware that your mind is a powerful place and it has confirmation bias. It wants to prove itself right. So what questions are you asking it to prove right? How do I win today? How do I get help? How can I leverage this issue? How can I do this better? Instead of like, why am I always late? Why do I always screw up? Oh, this is just
why
like
isn't
me.
this working? Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's like, you know, the framework, like, every day is not going to be sunshine and rainbows, right? Like, we talk about this all the time with the different lenses that you put on, but it's really having the tools that, you know, like, as soon as that confirmation bias sets in, as soon as that negative self-talk comes in of like, man, I just don't have it. Like, I don't know how this person is so successful and I'm not. That's where you, when you catch yourself in those moments, you have to have the toolkit of like, stop, think about it. What are the 3 questions? Is this true? Is this who I am? What are the, I know there's like 3 questions like to add, like when you have those negative thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Mine usually just comes in and I stop it and I'm like, not today, Satan, not today. Like, we're getting this out of the mind.
I always say, what do I know? What do I control?
And
how do I fix it?
Yeah,
and
is this true? Or something like that. But have those toolkits when you start to have those thoughts creep in, because we all do. We all have that negative little voice that comes in, and it's like, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you don't have this body. All those things come in, and you have to be able to have the toolkit of like stopping it and being like, nope, this is not true. This is not what I think of myself.
That's right.
And having those different tool mechanisms.
Yeah, that's what Andy Frisella calls the bitch voice versus the boss voice, right? You gotta get that boss voice up every once in a while and drown that little bitch voice out that wants to keep you in bed when you know you should be getting up and getting after it. So, I mean, there's so many tactics, you guys, and we are human and subject to all the human emotions and frailties, so we utilize a toolkit to get us through these things. Not that we're like the paragon of business awesomeness, but we're striving next to you guys to be better and better all the time. And this is how we encounter and take adversity, sit in it, and push through it with a little bit of resilience and some teamwork and some good coaching. And if we're focusing on these things, solutions, then we're probably going to find solutions. That's why we don't sit and focus on the flip side of that. So.
I mean, I think of like when the market shifted, instantly it was like we could sit there and we could say, oh, this freaking sucks. Like, our business dropped. Like, it just is what it is, right?
Over,
it's the market. We can't, but no, we said, we doubled down. We said the market's going to be the market, but we can control our activities. We can control our actions and our attitude and how we approach it. And yeah, everyone had a little dip in their business, but I felt like we were able to take it with such a greater stride on like, we got this and this too shall pass and we will get through this. And having those little toolkits of like, hey, this is temporary, this is moments. You know, we got it one day at a time, 1 foot, and just having our metrics and hitting those numbers. So then we didn't think about what else was going on. We didn't pay attention to the headlines on the news of, oh my gosh, the market's crap. It's all of the things that could get into fear, and we just put our heads down and we're like,
what can we control? And let's kick ass on what we can control and just accept the rest. Like, really, I can't control that. Why would I sit and worry about it?
Yeah, I can't control what Jerome Powell's doing. I have no control over what the Fed market can do, and no control over that. But I can control how we react to it. I can control our emotion to it. And yeah, we get it. Sometimes it sucks. Like, sometimes it just sucks. But you gotta be able to have those tools to push through that. Because when you get in that mindset, and that can be a slippery slope and go deep, deep, real quick. It's like the wormhole on Instagram or the YouTube wormhole. Like, you can get really deep into those
stay
things.
away from WebMD. You die.
Yeah.
You always die.
The solution is always death on WebMD. Just don't ever WebMD it.
Well, you know, you take 2 minutes, you kick the dirt, you curse the sky, whatever you gotta do, and then you get back to work, right? And we do that. Like, and that happens, you know, and you have to process it. It's not like it's not real, the pain, the frustration, all of that, but then you get back to work, because in action, the solution makes itself available to you. But in paralysis of analysis, in the fetal position, in like misery, there's no solution.
No.
You gotta get back to work, right? If you're going through hell, go faster. So you can get out of it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and everybody goes through it. So I hope you guys got some value or some good nuggets out of this one. I know this one's really helped us today, especially it's helped me today. So if you guys need
Good one. Good job.
on it. Ow, sorry.
So that's Haley, Ryan, until next time.
Bye.
See you.
See you. Bye.